Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Spin Cycle Live. I'm your host, Nathan Hale. We are in a new space today. I'm on vacation right now. What can I say? But I still have to bring you the good, the great, and the ugly of the news cycle for Monday, June 2nd. Happy Pride Month, everyone. We are in the month of Pride. You're not going to get away from all the gay people for, at least until probably mid-July, for being completely honest here. As you know, I don't partake in Pride Month. I'm not a fan of it, but do what you will with that. If you want to go see my full thoughts on everything happening in Pride Month, go and follow me on Twitter at Homonatian. That's where all those updates are going to be at. So, sorry if it's a little echoey. I'm sorry if the background is not what you are used to seeing, but I have to do what I have to do, guys. Right? I still have a life to live, so I'm here giving you an episode. I'd rather bring an episode that is lower quality than not bring one at all. But with that, let's get into our very first story of today, and that comes from the Post-Millennial. It is all about these terror attacks that have happened in Colorado overnight. So let me bring up my mouse here. All right, here we go. Okay. So FBI charges terror suspect Mohamed Sabry Soliman in firebombing attack on Boulder, Colorado, March for Israel hostage. Mohamed Sabry Soliman, the 45-year-old suspect in custody for firebombing a peaceful pro-Israel demonstration in Boulder, Colorado on Sunday, is reportedly an Egyptian national who is in the United States illegally and granted work authorization under the Biden administration. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, has now charged Soliman in connection with what is being called a targeted terror attack at around 1:26 p.m. on Saturday. Boulder police responded to reports of an alarmed individual igniting people near the Boulder County Courthouse on Pearl Street. The victims, 6 Israeli supporters aged 67 and 88, between age 67 and 88, hospitalized with burn injuries. Witnesses reported that Soliman shouted, quote, "Free Palestine," during the attack, which occurred near a weekly event hosted by Run for Their Lives, a grassroots organization advocating for the release of Israeli hostages held by Hamas. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino stated that the incident is being treated as, quote, "ideological motivated violence," citing evidence and eyewitnessing accounts. The Anti-Defamation League Center on Extremism reviewed video footage from the scene and said that the suspect shouted phrases such as, "How many children you killed?" Quote, "We have to end Zionists, and they are killers." FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed that ongoing investigations in a statement posted on X, quote, "We are aware of fully investigating a targeted terror attack in Boulder, Colorado. Our agents and local law enforcement are on the scene already, and we will share updates as more information becomes available." This is so scary right now for Jewish Americans, right? Now, I have been somewhat critical on how the war in Israel has gone out. I'm sure you've seen on past episodes kind of what I've said on that. I don't really want to get into all of it again. International relations is not my strong suit when it comes to dealing with geopolitical events. That's why I don't tend to talk about them all that often. But I have to cover when it happens in the United States, and seeing that there are people in this country who are actively going out and trying to kill other members of our country based on their religion or the country that they're from, or even a potential affiliation, right? These are not even like Israeli military members. These are not even people that necessarily, had anything to do with the deaths of anyone in Palestine. These are Americans who are supporting their home country of Israel, or at least where their family might be from potentially. And they're being killed for those reasons, or they're being attacked for those reasons, right? And if this was any other racial group in this country, if this was Black Americans, if this was Hispanic Americans, if this was Palestinians, for instance, if Jewish people were killing Palestinians in the United States, this would be mainstream news. This would be everywhere. This would be they would be saying there's a genocide happening in the United States, right? But because it's happening against Jewish Americans and what we've been told are, oppressors and a group of people that does not deserve our respect, they get no sympathy from the mainstream media, right? They don't. And it leaves it to people like me and other journalists out there to cover news stories and topics that are not being brought up by the mainstream media. And this is one of them. So shame on this man and shame on the pro-Palestinian crowd for not absolutely saying that this is wrong, this should not happen. Protesting is absolutely something that you should do. If you are someone who believes in the rights of Palestinians and that they are in the right for some reason in all of this, go out and protest, make your voice heard. But do not hurt people, do not harm others, do not harass people while you're doing it, right? There's a difference between protesting and actually peaceful protesting, right? And the left loves to say that protests actually harm people and hurt others are actually peaceful protests or somewhat peaceful, but they're not. So this is so wrong. I can't believe this happened, and I'm saddened to see that people were hurt expressing their First Amendment rights in public in the United States of America. But with that, let's move on to our next. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, this guy's an illegal. This guy's even an American who attacked other Americans. This guy is an illegal alien here from Egypt who should have been deported. He should not be here. And it continues to go and show how Eastern values, such as those found in the Middle East, are not compatible with Western values like we have in the United States. Absolutely unequivocally true. That's all I have to say about that. All right, let's go and move on. So the Supreme Court went ahead and declined a challenge to bans on assault-style weapons and high-capacity magazines. This comes from CNBC News. The Supreme Court on Monday declined to hear two major gun cases challenging a Maryland law that bans assault-style weapons, including AR-15 semi-automatic rifles that has been used in high-profile mass shootings, and a Rhode Island restriction on large-capacity magazines. As a result, the two laws remain in effect. Litigation over similar bans across the country is ongoing, and the issue is likely to return to the justices. The court has a 6-3 conservative majority and has expanded gun rights, but has also shown a reluctance in recent months to take up a new case on the scope of the right to bear arms under the Constitution's Second Amendment. It seems likely the court will take up the assault weapons issue soon, with 3 conservative justices saying they voted to take it up, and another, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, saying he would like the justices to hear a case on the issue in the next couple of years. Next couple of years? Seems like a while. Kavanaugh wrote in a separate statement that the ruling that upheld the Maryland ban is, quote, questionable under the court's recent precedents, adding that, quote, in my view, this court should and presumably will address the AR-15 issue soon. He noted that millions of Americans own AR-15s, making Maryland's ban somewhat of an outlier. Justice Clarence Thomas, who along with Justice Samuel Alito and Neil Gorsuch wanted to hear the Maryland case, wrote a dissenting opinion saying that the Maryland law was most likely not consistent with the 2022 ruling. Quote, it is difficult to see how Maryland's categorical prohibition of AR-15s passes muster under this framework, he wrote. The Maryland law bans what the states called assault weapons, akin to weapons of war like the M15 rifle as well as the AR-15. The measure became law in 2013 in the aftermath of the Sandy Hook school shooting, in which 20 children and 6 adults were killed the previous year. The law was upheld by the Richmond, Virginia-based Fourth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals before the Supreme Court's 2022 decision. A new set of plaintiffs then filed a lawsuit, and the Supreme Court ordered the appeals court to take a second look at the issue. It reached the same conclusion in the August 2024 ruling. Quote, assault weapons at issue fall outside the ambit of protection offered by the Second Amendment because, in essence, they are military-style weapons assigned to sustain combat operations and are ill-suited and disproportionate to the need of self-defense, the court concluded. So, whenever a Supreme Court decision is made, regardless of it, usually I'm the one sitting here saying, I respect the court's decision. You know, there's nothing they can do at this point. It's over and done with. They are legal scholars beyond my wildest ambitions. This one's interesting, in my opinion. So, I respect the Supreme Court's decision. If they rejected it, then that's the decision they made. No amount of me complaining about it is going to change any of that. What strikes me is that Brett Kavanaugh said that they will take a look at this case in the next couple of years. So we're going to put the Second Amendment, we're going to put a major case that could determine people's gun rights on hold for a couple of years until it's more convenient to talk about more. That's what confuses me a little bit, right? Because I think that a lot of people who are huge gun advocates would say that this is absolutely an infringement on people's Second Amendment rights. How could it not be? And basically what the court is saying, if you're of that belief, is that, hey, if you live in Virginia, sorry, but we're going to continue to infringe. We're going to continue to let government infringe upon your Second Amendment rights until we decide to get around to it. So see you then. Try another case later, right? We're busy. And yeah, I would be really upset right now if I was someone who lived in Virginia, especially if I was someone who owns weapons. I would be upset if I was a huge gun advocate myself. I mean, I'm a huge gun advocate myself. I think that everybody should have a gun. But this is interesting to see. And yeah, I think that this is the Supreme Court should have taken up this case because they would have had I feel like they would have ruled in favor of gun rights, and it would have been really interesting to see as someone who follows the Supreme Court. With that, let's go and move on to our last story. It's going to be a little bit shorter episode today and get you out of here quick. I know you don't like hearing the echo in this room and this ugly background. You like seeing the Lego behind me, but this story comes from the New York Post. Egg prices have plummeted since Trump took office after hitting all-time high in March. The price of eggs has dropped over 61% since President Donald Trump took office in January, after spiking to an all-time high in March. The most recent data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture shows white, large-shell eggs are now $2.52 per dozen nationally. On January 21st, the same carton of eggs would have run Americans $6.49, according to the data website Trending Economics. Trending Economics shows eggs were over $8 a dozen the first week of March. And they've come down to $2 and what, 52 cents? $2.52 a dozen. This is great. This is, Donald Trump campaigned on this. He campaigned on lowering egg prices, and seems like he's done it. Egg prices have come down significantly. I mean, especially when you consider that they were up to $8. Yeah, $8 a dozen in March. I mean, that's a huge difference, right? You could buy what, three dozen eggs for the price of a dozen eggs, a little less than that in March. So this is a big deal. Got to commend Trump on this and his administration. They've done a great job getting prices down overall. I hope they continue on this and get prices of lots of other goods down. But this is a big issue for a lot of people out there, and especially Democrats were like, there's no way that Trump will do it. And then Kamala started campaigning on how she's going to lower egg prices if she had been in office for 4 years. And egg prices are down. So congrats to Trump. But with that, that's all I got for you all today. I appreciate you joining us today on another episode of Spin Cycle Live. Don't forget, we have episodes coming out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss it. They're live streaming X, YouTube, Rumble, all the platforms. They're out there. If you missed an episode, you can watch on YouTube and Rumble again. If you want to see a rerun, we're also putting episodes up on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for the episode that we did the day prior. So if you missed it on Monday, today's show will also be out Tuesday at 8 p.m. So kind of switching up the times a little bit, as you know. But with that, I hope you had a great day. Have a great rest of your Monday. I hope that we could brighten your day a little bit with this show, give you some good news takes. And with that, we will be back here on Wednesday, hopefully with some more stories to cover from the week. But I will see you all then. Both that, I've been Nathan Hale. This has been Spin Cycle Live. Peace out.